someone who's a high achiever, how is their brain actually different from the other people within the industry who are not able to achieve as much? What's happening different here? And the supplemental question is, can anyone become a high performer, or is there a prerequisite?
Anyone can become a high performer. It depends on how much time do they have and what level of motivation do they have. Because essentially, all high performance is the ability to solve a problem better than other people. Or if you remove the competitive aspect from it, the ability to solve a problem. All right. Now, you give me any problem, right? So if I'm a doctor, obviously medical problems are easier for me to solve. Now, you give me a physics problem. I'm not good at maths. I'm not good at physics. Is my brain capable of learning to solve that problem? The answer is yes. There is nothing in my brain that stops me from becoming a physicist. My brain can learn to recognize patterns of numbers. It can learn to recognize how to derive an equation, and it can learn to recognize what are the steps to be taken to solve a physics problem. But this will require time, because those neurons, when we talk of neuroplasticity, it's not an instantaneous thing. It's not that if I think about it, it'll happen. Those neurons take time to disentangle and form new connections. And the one chemical that is important for neuroplasticity is dopamine. Dopamine directs neuroplasticity. You need dopamine for neuroplasticity to happen, because dopamine is sort of like the glue that pushes neuroplasticity together. When I say dopamine, usually people associate dopamine as the happiness molecule. That if you have dopamine, oh, you feel good. But that's not true. Dopamine is actually the motivation molecule. Dopamine is what gives you that internal drive to get up and do something. And you can understand this from an evolutionary perspective, because dopamine was involved in the core drives that kept animals alive. Food, sex, these were the things that kept animals and species alive, and that is what is associated with dopamine. So that is what gives you motivation. If you are not motivated, then neuroplasticity will not happen. And if you don't give it time, neuroplasticity will not happen. So why can I not be a physicist? A, I'm not motivated. And B, I won't give time.
Your brain doesn't secrete dopamine with respect to physics.
Becoming that, correct, solving that problem.
But for you as a neurologist, your brain secretes more dopamine with respect to biology.
Absolutely. So you give me a patient case. You tell me that, oh, a 60-year-old patient came with these problems. My brain is already like, oh, what is it? What is it? So I'm getting that sense of anticipation. And if I can't solve that problem, I'm motivated to go read, get better. So motivation plus time is what directs neuroplasticity.
Yeah. I think the bottom line understanding for professionals here should be choose a job that you enjoy.
Beautifully said, because if you don't enjoy it, that basically means that you don't have motivation. So no matter how much time you give it, one of the corollaries of motivation is attention.
What does that mean?
So one of the things that happens when you have motivation is that attention comes along with it. So let me try to put it in a easier way. When you are motivated, a lot of things happen in the brain. When you're motivated, what you are motivated for, that thing increases in value in your brain. So if you are motivated to watch cricket, watching that cricket match will be more valuable than reading a book or going for a walk or anything else that you can do with your body. Because your body can only do one or two things at a time. So your brain has to pick what to do with your hands, with your legs. What do you do with your time? So whatever has the highest level of value will get all your attention.
And this is subjective for every human being.
Everybody, absolutely. And this is what everybody is fighting for. Netflix is also fighting for your attention. All the cinema theaters are fighting for attention. Friends are fighting for attention. Everybody wants to be the highest value in your life. And that is decided by how much dopamine and in a way also serotonin, these two molecules come together to decide how much value each thing has in your life. That is why you say that if you are already passionate about a particular job, that means that motivation will come more easily, and so neuroplasticity happens more easily. All functioning human beings, I'm not talking of anybody with any disorder, I'm not talking of, say, Parkinson patients or anybody with depression, but otherwise, the level of chemicals are pretty much the same. How they act or where are they directed towards is different. So it's not that somebody who is sitting at home and scrolling on his phone has lower levels of dopamine than somebody who's hard at work at their job. It's just that what their brain is motivated to do is different, right? So when you want to, say for example, if you don't want to lie on the couch, you want to get out and be motivated about something else, the trick is to find out where your dopamine is directed, where your motivation is directed.
Gotcha. Okay, so for the sake of becoming better at our careers, let's create some call to actions here.
Okay.
The one out and out call to action I gained from everything you just said is choose a job that you enjoy. What else? Which is hyper practical.
You can also do a bit of reverse engineering here. You give me a job that I might not initially enjoy. How can I begin to enjoy it? The only thing that you enjoy overall is yourself. This is just one of those ego tricks that the brain plays. So you will find enjoyment in anything that you identify with. You have to start seeing yourself as somebody who does that job. Let me try to simplify. Why do I like medicine? Since I was a kid, I have always thought of myself as a puzzle solver. I liked the idea. I always thought of myself as a curious person. That was my inner monologue. That was my inner voice. We all have it. We all have some sense of identity. कि मैं कौन हूँ? मुझे क्या अच्छा लगता है? What do I like? What do I not like? I used to think of myself as a curious person. I wanted to know. And when I find a problem, I wanted to figure out how to fix it. Now, because of this inherent nature of mine, I found that biology has a lot of things that I'm curious about. And the problems of biology, if I want to fix, that'll automatically make me a doctor. Right? Now, suppose if you force me to become a physicist, the way I will find motivation is that I will look for curiosity. I'll find what is making me curious in physics. And I'll hook onto that. I'll hold on to that. And I will chase that.
Would you say that the second CTA is creating very strong self-narratives and then finding those narratives within the realm of your work?
All the time. Any project, not even all over your work, even in a single project, if you can find something about that project that directly relates to you, you identify with it. This is who I am. Motivation becomes easier. Attention becomes easier.
Got it. Just for the sake of giving an example, you know what you said about you being a puzzle solver? In my head, I've always related with athletes. So I view content creation as a sport and I have to just do my best job as an athlete. That's a strong self-narrative that I've had throughout the course of content creation.
I really love the narrative of athletes, and I'll tell you why. Because I've always thought that sports was a great analogy for life. Because if you condense life, what does it mean? Life is a series of obstacles that you come across that is stopping you from scoring a point or winning a goal or winning the game. And you have to find a way across that obstacle. And if you do, then you win. But that doesn't mean that you stop playing, because now you're on to the next level. And that is what sports is. And you will try, you will fail, you will come back to the drawing board, you'll figure out a new way, and then you'll come back and play again. That's basically evolution in a nutshell. And that's also our life in a nutshell. So over the last 14 billion years, or you could say 4 billion years since Earth was formed, life on Earth has been doing this. Figuring out what protein chain will be more sustainable, which microorganism will live more. And so from that unicellular evolutionary stage all the way to human beings, we have been constantly trying to figure out how to solve this problem. That's basically it. So it's all sports. So if you look at an athlete's brain and you try to learn from what an athlete does or what a sports person does and try to imbibe that, your life would be better. There is no doubt about it. I would say that every student, every child should be trained in some sport. It doesn't really matter which sport, because it's not about the sport. It's about the learnings from the sport, because their brain will get wired to take failure in a certain way, and they will be wired to solve problems in a certain way.
And they'll learn to work with other human beings.
Absolutely. If it's a community sport or if it's a team sport, then yes.